Hey everybody, I am Dr. Brady Wyrick,
And I'm Jason Rosen.
and we are the Zyme guys, and we are
Yes, we are.
very excited to have a guest with us today. Jason, why don't you introduce our favorite colleague here?
Yes. So as we mentioned in some of these earlier videos, we have a few sponsors, and we have the honor of having one of the owners of one of our biggest sponsors, Master Supplements, on the line today. And this guy has just been working with probiotics since day one, and is just a wealth of knowledge. So what we'd like to do is just we like to tell a story, like we talked about our past and how we got to where we are today, and to just let Jeff Thurston here, our guest, give a little bit of his story and his journey, what led him from his biochemistry background up into where he is now, working with probiotics and 11 patents under their belts. Jeff Thurston, why don't I hand it over to you?
Oh, thank you very much, gentlemen. I really appreciate this. It's an honor to be here with you guys. When I first got out of school, I started working in research, and from there, everything just as life goes on, just takes you down very many different roads, and I ended up in organic agriculture. Had a pesticide that didn't really kill anything; it just kept the bugs off your tomatoes, and it was. We're doing very well with it. And I was out in California, and I met a gentleman named Randy Porubkin, and we were both speaking to farmers. And afterwards, we went out for dinner, and we hit it off. And he said, someday we need to start a business together. And in 2002, he called me up and said, "You ready?" And I said, "Yep." And we dropped everything. And we started Master Supplements back then with our credit cards. And lo and behold, we're still here today. Randy has a very different background. He started out washing test tubes at Chris Hansen's when he was in high school, and ended up running their probiotic facility. He's interesting in that one of the primary organisms a lot of people have been using in their products is Lactobacillus acidophilus, NCFM, which stands for North Carolina Food Microbiologist. And Dr. Marvin Speck isolated this particular organism, ready for this, from a 2-year-old's diaper. Purified it, cleaned it, grew it, put it back into children, found that it worked really well. But then they needed to find a place to grow it commercially. Went to Chris Hansen's, where Randy was the protege of the lead microbiologist there. So we've been working with that organism for 50 years. And so we kind of understand what you need to do to grow bacteria and how they work and what they do. And that's where most of our patents came from, is either mistakes in production or what have you, ways of making them better and more efficient. And by the way, we have 19 of them now, Jason.
Oh, 19. Can't keep up with you.
So 19 patents on specific probiotics. Is that what you're saying?
No, our patents are not on the organisms themselves. It's difficult to patent an organism that's naturally occurring.
I see.
Patent one that you've added some genetic material to, but you can't patent a naturally occurring organism. But what you can patent is how do you deliver them through the stomach? Because stomach acid is a barrier to entry to bacteria, because everything you're breathing, you're swallowing. And if stomach acid didn't kill them, there's this wonderful environment to grow bugs, just sitting right down here in your belly. And everything you would be swallowing would be growing. So stomach acid is a barrier. You've got to get past that. And then these organisms, people won't believe it, but they're grown in a fermenter. They're centrifuged out. They're washed. They're dropped into liquid nitrogen, and then all the water is removed from them, and yet they're still alive. But they're fragile. So they, again, now you need to know, how do you get them through the stomach? Then how do you wake them up so that they can become effective? Now, this is typical for Lactobacillus and bifidobacteria. Soil-based organisms, spore-forming bacteria, they get through the stomach just fine. It takes them about up to 12 hours to go from the spore form to a vegetative form when they can start to work. And I look at it, just a real quick story. Babies that are born vaginally get lactobacillus. That's about 90% of the bacteria on their skin. Through breastfeeding, they get bifidobacteria. They come home and they crawl around on the ground, they get soil-based organisms. Those are all part of the microbiome that every individual gets.
So
Yes.
those that
And
are not.
Sorry, I was just going to say with the soil-based organisms, just to go back to that, if someone's having some transit issues like diarrhea, you could run into some real issues with the spore-forming bacteria being able to populate.
Well,
Correct?
they're not going to be as rapid growers. Well, actually, neither are Lactobacillus all that rapid. That's one of the reasons why you look at numbers when you're looking at these organisms. The age-old question, would you rather have $1 million or have me give you a penny doubled every day for a month? Which would you choose? Well, if you took the penny doubled every day for a month, you'd have a heck of a lot more money than if somebody just gave you the $1 million.
Right.
Some things, when they double, they just go at a much faster rate, and a lot of pathogenic bacteria can do that. Just as few as 10 bad organisms in a bad clam can put you down for 3 days, because they can replicate in 17 minutes. So in 6 hours, you'll have 250,000 from one.
Jeez. So
Crazy.
let me ask you 2 questions that come up on a day-to-day basis from clinical applications. Now, keep in mind, this is coming from people who show up to my office that really aren't clued into natural ways of helping their gut. They're eating a standard American diet. Their doctor tells them to take a probiotic, but they don't really know why. Their gut health, they've been through rounds of antibiotics. Their gut health is just not good. This whole thing is new to them. So number 1, if you could answer for us, why is taking a probiotic so important? And then number 2, if you could answer for us, why you can't just go pick one off the grocery store shelves.
Well, let's start with the first one then. Why are they important? If you look at antibiotics, they're designed to kill life. Anti-life, antibiotics. Probiotics are pro-life. They're opposite ends of a spectrum. And I liken it to if you took the paint off the wall of the wood on your house and you didn't put paint back on the wall, what would happen? The wood would not fare well. So if you look at what an antibiotic can do, it can go in and create some voids in the GI tract. It's killing things. And what is going to take the place? Usually the most opportunistic organism is going to take its place. Whereas if you take a probiotic, what you're doing, in essence, is putting paint back on that wood. You're giving an organism that is going to fill that spot. And these are not permanent organisms. They're not going to stay there forever. One particular Lactobacillus paracasei can hang around for 8 weeks after you stop taking it. So they're not permanent residents. But what they will do is they'll be like the police. They'll put things back in order until your normal gut flora can take over and repopulate your gut the way you started life. Because when you start your life, the bacteria you got from mom and the bacteria you picked up are the basis of your immune system. So that's your probiotic fingerprint. And each of us has a different probiotic fingerprint that's sitting on this call. So what works for you is not going to work for me. So I want to get you back to your normal with a good probiotic. And to me, what you want to look for in a good probiotic, you have names, Lactobacillus and Acidophilus, and then you have LA1, which is a strain designation. And then you can go even further to an American type culture collection number, but that's irrelevant for this conversation. So you want to see all 3 of those things on the label, because you can have, there may be as many as 100 different strains of Acidophilus. Not all of them are good probiotics. Not all of them will downregulate histamines. Not all of them will downregulate tyramines. Not all of them will degrade oxalates. Not all of them will do all these different things. So just saying I have one, let's say you own a house, you need a plumber, you want the best plumber, and somebody says, call John Smith. Which John Smith? No, just call John Smith. He'll do. you're not going to, you don't know what you're getting until you really get specific. Right? So you need to see the strain designation. Then you want to see on the label how many of each of those strains is in the bottle. And then the numbers that they usually give them in is CFU, colony forming units. Now a colony can form from 1 or 100 bacteria. So you don't want to see a number in just total bacteria because you can't really measure that accurately, but you can count colonies. So you'll see the number like 10 billion CFU of a particular strain, Lactobacillus acidophilus, LA1, 10 billion. That's what you want to look for in your probiotic. If you see a proprietary blend, to me, that often means they put the most of the least expensive and the least of the most expensive in there because, you know, it's my formula and I'm trying to hit a price point. And if you buy your probiotic on price, you're not looking for effectiveness. Because what you get is, you know, that's not, just not what you're paying for. You want to look for one in a glass bottle, preferably. Because glass is far more protective of these organisms. And heat is not the issue for the most part. Water is. They've been freeze dried. The operative word is dried. And with a plastic bottle, believe it or not, water vapor under pressure of 3,000 pounds per square inch can get into a plastic bottle. Mm-hmm. And 3,000 pounds per square inch sounds like a lot, but that's what you can get on, if it's cold outside your home and warm and moist inside your home, that's the pressure on the paint inside your home pushing out and blowing paint off the outside of your house. So there's, so you want to look for a product that's got typically multiple strains, but not too many, because if you put, how much stuff can you put in a 5-pound sack? You know, if a study says you need to have 10 billion CFU to get a result that might help your immune system, and you put in 6, you know, you didn't meet what the study says, and if you just don't give any number at all, you have no idea. And you want to look for an expiration date on the product, not the date of manufacture, because if it's guaranteed on the day you made it, then the day after it could be dead, and you don't know that. But if you're guaranteeing that it's good in 2 years, that means you have to have tested it to show that the way you store it, you're going to have that guarantee of 30 or 50 billion, whatever it is, at expiration.
And that's where some of those patents come in.
They all go into the cost of the product. And so if you want something to be effective, you may have to pay a little bit more for it, but that's what you're looking for.
So I have a bottle of True Flora here. Mm-hmm. And just to back up what you said, I look at the label, and lo and behold, guess what's on here? Lactobacillus salivarius LS33 at 3 billion CFU. Lactobacillus plantarum LP115, 10 billion CFU, and Bacillus coagulans IS2 at 2 billion CFU.
Right. You'll rarely see that strain, those last 3 digits on a probiotic, even in that you'd get from a clinician.
Right, but a lot of the good ones will put it on there, but a lot of the other ones won't. And then there's other issues in the nomenclature too that are going to be coming up, and just it's really not much of a big deal for most consumers, but a lot of organisms, Lactobacillus salivarius, won't be called Lactobacillus soon, because the taxonomists now have the genetic structure of the organism, so they can really put it in the proper box now and give it exactly what it's supposed to be called. And if you're looking for one last thing that we do that nobody else has done, and we've done this since 2002, we have published third-party lab tests online by lot number for strength, purity, and activity of every probiotic we've ever made. So you can go to mastersupplements.com and go to a page and find, where you put in the lot number, and you'll see what it was when it was made. So we're guaranteeing, I think on that particular product, 15 billion CFU. We may end up testing at 25.
That's awesome.
And that's a third-party lab. That's not our own lab doing the work.
There's so many directions we could take this conversation.
Yes. But I think this is good for today. I think as far as an intro to probiotics, that even a sophisticated learner probably learn more in this this quick clip than they've learned in a attending a lot of different conferences.
And if at some point you all want to, do this again, I'd be very happy to do it. We can go and we can talk about specific strains of Lactobacillus or specific strains of bifidobacteria, and we can talk about ones that aren't even in our products, because there are a lot of really good probiotics out there. Not all of them can get through the stomach. And one of the interesting things that you can look at is some of the papers that were done will show 99.9% of all the bacteria you take orally are going to be killed. So if you don't have some way of getting them through the stomach, whatever you're taking is not being beneficial to you. So if you can get what you guarantee through the stomach, then you've got an effective probiotic that can actually have some impact on your immune health or your regularity or whatever issues you have.
Wow. Well, this has been awesome. I can't wait for our next conversation.
Yes. JT, thanks for joining us very much.
You're very welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, JT. We will see everyone on the next video. Thank you.
See you next time.